Today we're going to learn lesson 5.2, which is ratio tables. Our learning target for today is I can find equivalent ratios using a ratio table. All right. So let's just start off with some definitions and some general notes that we need to know. So two ratios that describe the same relationship are called equivalent ratios. Okay, and we kind of did this yesterday with simplifying ratios. So an unsimplified ratio and a simplified ratio are equivalent ratios. You can find equivalent ratios by multiplying or dividing each quantity in the ratio by the same number. It's just like when you simplify fractions. You need to multiply or divide the top and bottom by the same number. Okay. You can find and organize equivalent ratios in a ratio table. All right. This is what a ratio table will look like. So it'll have the two different units, and then sometimes it'll have some values filled in for you, sometimes it won't, and it'll give you like a word problem, like our examples down here, where you have to make the whole thing all by yourself. All right, but we're going to start off with two examples where they already have something filled in, and we just have to find the equivalent ratios. Okay, we're going to do that by finding out what it's multiplied or divided by to get that next value. So we have 1 pen for every 3 pencils. So if we have 2 pens, we want to know how many pencils. Well, how do we go from 1 to 2 pens? Well, we multiply by 2. Whatever we do to the top number, we have to do to the other one. So 3 times 2 would then be 6. Now we're going to do the same idea for the last value. So we say, so we have an empty one on the top, so now we have pencils. So we have 3 pencils, and how do we get to 9 pencils? Well, to go from 3 to 9, we multiply by 3. We're going to do the same thing with our pens. Multiply by 3, so 1 times 3 is 3. Right, and that's how you're going to fill in a ratio table. At this time, I'd like you to pause the video and try this next one on your own, okay, and then resume your video to check. All right, so here we have 4 dogs for every 6 cats. So to go from 6 cats to 12 cats, we have to multiply it by 2. We do the same on the top to get 8 dogs for 12 cats. Okay, now we do the same thing, except for we're given the 24, so we have to use the number of dogs. And 4 times 6 is 24, so we have to do 6 times 6 to get 36. Another way you could have done it is if you knew 8 times 3 is 24, you could have also done 12 times 3. Okay, now these are all equivalent ratios, 4 to 6, 8 to 12, 24 to 36, right? Because we're multiplying each of the numbers by the exact same number. Okay. Now we're going to move on to making our own ratio table. This first one I already put a table in there for you, which is you have to fill in the values. The following examples you will have to make that table all by yourself, because on your quiz and test on this stuff you will have to make those tables by yourself. Okay? All right. You are making sugar water for your hummingbird feeder. For those of you that don't know, a hummingbird is just a kind of bird. So you're making like a mixture for a bird feeder. The website indicates that you use 4 parts of water for every 1 part of sugar. If we use 20 cups of water, how much sugar would we need? Okay. So we have 4 parts of water for 1 part of sugar. We're always going to fill in with the ratio they give us, that first column. So we have 4 parts of water, so make sure the 4 matches the water, for 1 part of sugar. Make sure the 1 matches the sugar. All right, we use 20 cups of water. So we want to get to eventually 20 cups of water. Okay. Now we could do, let's do 4 times 2. We get 8. 1 times 2 to get 2. Then we could do 4 times 3 to get 12. 1 times 3 to get 3. 4 times 4 to get 16. 1 times 4 to get 4. 4 times 5 to get 20, so we'd have to do 1 times 5 to get 5. Our answer to this question would be 5 cups of sugar. Okay. Now, you might be saying, Miss Lakin, you can go straight from 4 to 20. And that is okay. Even on your quiz and test, you are able to go straight from 4 to 20 by doing times 5 and 1 times 5 to get 5. These are not necessary. Okay. However, if you don't know how to go straight there, which when we get harder numbers, you might not, that's when all this middle stuff might be helpful. But if you can go straight there and you know 4 times 5 is 20, so 1 times 5 is 5, that's totally fine. You only need 2 of those columns filled in. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. Here's an example where we might not be able to go straight there. Okay, so let's start by making our table. We have the nutrition facts on a box of crackers show that there are 240 milligrams of sodium in every 36 crackers. If you eat 15 crackers, how much sodium do you consume? All right, so we're talking about sodium and crackers. For that first column in our ratio table, we always want to use the ratio that they give us. They tell us there's 240 grams of sodium in every 36 crackers. So 204 milligrams, so this is being measured in milligrams, 240 milligrams for every 36 crackers. So that's our first ratio. All right, the question asks, you eat 15 crackers, how much sodium do you consume? All right, so we want that end number of crackers to be 15. All right, you always want to fill in that last column, which whatever the question is asking for. All right. Now what we want to do is we can't go straight from 36 to 15. You can't multiply or divide 36 by a perfect even whole number to get 15. All right, so that's when this middleman becomes a little bit more important. All right, we can get 36 down to a number that we can then get back up to 15. Okay, so if I'm thinking of the factors of 36, and if I want to list them out, I can. So factors, remember, are numbers that multiply to be 36. I'm going to come across that one of those factors is 3. Okay, and if I somehow get down to 3, I can then get back up to 15 pretty easily. All right, now, so to do 36 to 3, I have to divide by 12. Okay, so we're just making an equivalent ratio. What we also want to make sure is to keep it nice numbers is that if we can divide the bottom number by 12, try to make sure you can also divide the top number by 12, which we can here. It gives us 20. Okay, and you can always do your long division if you need some help with that. Now we can go from 3 to 15 times 5. Whatever we do on the bottom, we have to do on the top. Answer to this question would be 100 milligrams, which is mg, of sodium. Okay. So this was just a good example of showing you when you would need that like middle columns, where I said up above you can skip right to it if you can. Here you can't skip right to it. So that's when those middle columns become important. All right, let's move on to another example. The last one that I will lead you through, and then the next two you will do on your own. If you're already feeling comfortable to do this on your own, you could watch me set it up, and then finish it, but it is going to be a different kind of example, so I would not advise you doing it completely on your own. Here we're going to have a 3-row table. Okay, and you'll see why in a minute. So the question says, you mix 3 pints of yellow paint for every 4 pints of blue paint to make green paint. So we have yellow paint, we have blue paint, and then we have green paint, which is what our total is, because when we mix yellow and blue, we get green. Okay, which is why we need those 3 columns, because that total is mentioned. To make, you use 10 pints of blue paint for every, so in our final one, we're going to use 10 pints of blue paint. How much green paint do we make with those 10 pints of blue paint and then however many yellow pints? All right. So we start off with that first ratio they give us, 3 pints of yellow, 4 pints of blue. How many total pints of paint is that going to be? Well, we're going to add them together. That would give us 7 pints of green paint. Okay, the 3 from the yellow and the 4 from the blue. We want to know for 10 pints of blue paint. Okay, we still don't know this value or this value. Okay. Now we can't go straight from 4 to 10, but we can get 4 to be a number that we can then get to 10. And I think the easiest way to do that is to cut it in half and make it a 2. Yes, we're going to have a decimal up here, but it's a relatively small decimal that's easy to work with. Okay, there's multiple different ways to do this correctly, so you don't have to do it the way that I'm doing it. I just try to find the easiest way that makes sense to me. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. So now we have 1.5 pints plus 2 pints, which gives us 3.5 pints. All right. Now we can go from 2 to 10 relatively easily by multiplying by 5. We just have to take 1.5 and multiply it by 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 plus 2 is 7. 1 decimal place, we would get 7.5. Right. Now that final answer, because we have to go back and see what the question asked us to do, how much green paint do you make? So we have to add 7.5 plus 10 to get 17.5 pints of green is our final answer. All right. At this time, I want you guys to pause the video and I want you to try the next one on your own. Okay, so I want you to complete problem number 4. If you need help watching me set up the table, that's fine. But then once I get the table set up, I want you to do the solving. Okay, and then you can resume the video, watch problem number 4. Then pause it again to do number 5, resume it to see if you are right. Okay, so right now I would like you to pause that video unless you want to watch me set up that table and then pause it. Your neighbor pays you $17 for every 2 hours you work. You work 8 hours on Saturday. How much does your neighbor owe you? Use a ratio table to solve. So it looks like we have dollars. Oops, that's not the color I want, sorry. And hours are our 2 units. Okay. We get $17 for every 2 hours. They want to know for 8 hours, and here's one that we could go straight there if we wanted to, or we could go to 4 and then to 8. It's really up to you guys. So we're going to do 2 times 4 to get 8, so we're going to do 17 times 4 to get our answer right there. So we'll take 17 times 4. 4 times 7 is 28. Carry the 2, 4, 5, 6, 68. All right, so our answer to this question would be $68. Or your neighbor owes you $68 if it had to be in a complete sentence. All right, again, I want you to pause the video and try number 5 on your own, and then I would like you to resume the video to check your answer. A grade has 81 girls and 72 boys. The grade is split into groups that have the same ratio of girls to boys as the whole grade. How many girls are split in a group that has 16 boys? So what they're saying is a grade has 81 girls. So right now we have girls and boys. So we have 81 girls and 72 boys. Okay, now what they're saying is they're going to split that into smaller groups, but they want the ratio of girls and boys to be the same for every group. So we're looking for an equivalent ratio in which there are 16 boys. Okay, if you didn't pause the video before, please pause it now and try this on your own. For this, we cannot go from 72 to 16, so we do have to use that little middleman guy. Okay, and we can get, what can we divide 81 and 72 both by to keep it using whole numbers? All right, well, I know that those are both multiples of 9, so I could divide them both by 9. And 72 divided by 9 is going to give me 8, which really helps me because it's easy to go from 8 to 16. I just double it. 81 divided by 9 is 9. All right, so then I just have to do 8 times 2. 9 times 2. So the number of girls that would be in a group would be 18. So our answer would be 18. So we'd circle it. Girls. Okay. That's it. All right. So please take a minute or two to write your summary on what we learned today. Some things that you might want to include would be some of those first definitions and notes that we took, that you have to multiply or divide by the same number. Equivalent ratios can be organized in a ratio table. Some of that information might help you the best.